Today, I'm really excited to have Craig Berman on with me. Craig is CEO of Geauga Mechanical. They are a third-generation mechanical contractor in Chardon, Ohio. Craig is also vice president of SMACNA Cleveland, and I am so excited to have him on today because I've got to know him, and I'm really impressed with his company culture, and I'm excited to have him here today. So, Craig, welcome to the people business.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Excited
thanks
to
for
do it.
coming in.
Yeah.
So I got to know Craig, working in the industry and getting to know him, sit down with him, learn more about his company, learn more about his people, have had some collaboration with him. And what really just was so impressive to me was just how you guys do things. I mean, coming from a third generation contractor, your grandfather started your business, right?
He did, yeah, 1950.
1950.
Yep.
All right. So we're talking here, it's 2024, right? So 74 years.
Yeah, coming up on the big 75th year anniversary, which we're excited about.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
So when your grandfather started the company, was your father involved and your uncles involved from the get-go?
Pretty early on, when he started, it was kind of just him, one-man shop, doing gutters, roofing, all kinds of different things like that, residential mostly.
Okay.
And then as the company grew a little bit, as the kids started getting older, they all started getting involved, when they were old enough to start doing things.
So was it always Geauga Mechanical?
It wasn't actually. It was
really?
It was started as White City Heating and Tinning. So they're in the White City neighborhood of Cleveland. They all grew up in the Collinwood area by
Really?
Euclid Beach Park. So it was named after that area of Cleveland to start.
Okay.
Out there, yeah.
So they were, so was it more sheet metal at
It
first,
was,
or?
yeah, to start, it was really, again, gutters, roofing, sheet metal stuff, heating
Okay.
systems. And then in the 60s, they started getting into air conditioning as that started to gain popularity. Again, mostly residential market air conditioning in the 60s.
So your father and how many uncles do you have?
So there were 5 kids. So
5.
my dad, and then he had 3 brothers and a sister.
Okay.
So, I had 4 uncles in the business and my dad.
Wow.
Yeah,
So they grew up in the business then?
they did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Working in the business?
Working in the field. They were all in the union. A couple were in the pipe fitter union. 3 of them were in the sheet metal union. So from very early on, they were working in the business. Yep.
So we fast forward then to your childhood. Mm-hmm. And what was that like? You have yourself, and then you have, how many siblings do you
I
have?
have one sibling, brother,
Okay.
Chase, younger brother.
And he's still involved with the company also
Yep,
today.
he's in the business.
So when you guys grew up and your father and your uncles were all in the business, did you know this is what you wanted to do, or?
Not really.
Okay.
And most of my generation didn't either. All of us went to school for different things, and we all worked there in the summers, though. That was just what you did. As soon as you got to be 12, 13 years old, you were sweeping the shop, making slips and drives, organizing shelves. That's what we all kind of did. That's not, the funnest work. So I think that had pushed some of us, to go. And I've got cousins that are teachers, doctors, all kinds of different things. So a lot of my generation went different ways, but, a lot of us came back to the industry, which was pretty unique and neat.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So where did you go to school?
I went to Ohio University.
Okay.
So I went for actually
Bobcat.
engineering. Yep. I was a Bobcat. Love OU. So I, in high school, I really liked mechanical drafting, drawing. I like math. I knew that I kind of wanted to do something in that field, and I knew eventually that could tie into Geauga Mechanical, but I also knew there's just so many things you could do with a mechanical engineering degree.
Sure.
So that's why I picked that. I really liked it. I loved going to school there. I loved what I was learning there. And then about my junior year, I came back. I was still working in the summers for the business, and had a conversation with my dad and uncle, and decided that that is something I wanted to do and come back to the business. So then I decided that's what I was going to do after college.
So you decided after college that's what you were going to do.
Yep.
How did your dad and your uncles take that? What was their response to that?
I think they were excited.
Yeah.
And I think, the business at the time had started growing. They've started getting more commercial work, but it was a lot of plan and spec work. And I think they knew, and I didn't know anything about the business, but I think they knew that wasn't where they wanted to be. They wanted to be more of a relationship-based design build, design assist type contractor. Knowing that I was going to engineering school and I had taken an interest in it, I think they knew that maybe there could be a good fit there. So I think it was really their foresight to see that that's what that could mean by me, joining the company at that point. And the other thing they did, which was a huge help to me in my career, was I went to the Train graduate training program. So Train company sends all of their newly graduated engineers up to La Crosse, Wisconsin for a few months, basically a graduate degree in HVAC.
Interesting.
So I was the only contractor in the class. We had a good relationship with Train, so they let me go, which I was very grateful for. But that was awesome. It was a great experience to meet other people, learn about the industry, learn about HVAC. So I did that pretty much right after college. And then, really started working after that.
What did you take away from that experience when you went up there to Wisconsin? Anything in particular that like really sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, I think it gave me some confidence, because you graduate college, you learn very little about really HVAC or how things work in general. You learn the theory behind it, how to calculate things, and you come out of college, and I know my thought was, I really still don't know much, but I think going up there and first of all, learning those things I think helped, but seeing that everybody else was kind of in the same boat as me, you kind of know stuff, you don't really, you're going to learn as you go. And then they'd have people come in that, had gone through the class and talked about how their careers went. And you kind of realize that, everybody's just kind of figuring out when they first get started. And that made me feel a little bit better getting into it.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because I think we all kind of have that lack of confidence, early on in our career, especially, right? And it's like you go to school, and you don't get me wrong, you learn things, right? But those things don't necessarily prepare you for what the business world is going to be, right?
Right.
Growing up in the industry, though, so did you have pressure from your family of like, we need you to, carry this on or not?
No,
not
which
at all?
was great because that, I'm very grateful that wasn't the case. They said, if you want to do this, great, happy to have you. But if you don't, that's fine too. And they've, really all of my uncles, my dad have taken that approach with everybody. There's really never been any pressure to get into it, which is, I think been great. And I think, that's allowed people to feel comfortable to come back to the business. My cousin Danny, for example, was a teacher. And then he came back, and now he's running our VDC department.
Oh, really?
And some people, like my cousin Alex, went to school for construction management. She knew from the beginning she wanted to do it, but never been any pressure, and I think that's been great.
That's really important because I think a lot of, we're talking about a third generation. Like, you're almost expected to carry on a legacy, so to speak, right?
Right.
And you guys didn't have that pressure. I work with other companies out there that do have that pressure, right? And then next thing you know, you have people who really don't want to be there, and that's tough.
Right. And I think that's where you hear those statistics, of the likelihood of a third generation being successful. And I think if you're putting people in the wrong spots, giving them the wrong job roles just because they're part of the family, I think that's what happens, So I think the fact that they weren't putting pressure on people, not trying to make people fit in a role that wasn't a good fit for them, was a big reason why we're doing well under a third generation, because there wasn't that pressure and there wasn't that, forcing something that maybe wasn't a good fit.
Yeah. So your grandfather started the company. Is he still with us today?
No, he passed away in the mid-'90s, actually.
In the mid-'90s,
Yep.
okay. So how old were you when he passed?
13.
13, okay. Was there anything that you learned from him that he passed along to you that you were able to, that you use today?
Yeah, I was not too involved in the business, but everybody loved being around him. He was a very personable guy. He seemed to have so many friends, always having a good time. I think, for him, probably why he was successful is just because everybody liked doing business with him. They liked being around him. They liked working with him. I don't know if he was the strongest business guy, but he was very likable, and people liked being around him. Yeah.
One of my favorite all-time quotes is from Bob Berg, the author of The Go-Giver, and he said, all things being equal, people love doing business with and referring business to people that they know, they like, and they trust. And that he calls that the golden rule of business. So it sounds like your grandfather had that. He had that likability factor down. People knew him, people liked him, and as a result of that, they probably trusted him, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so important. And you talk about that today, like when we've collaborated, like that likability, that enjoyability factor, and how important it is.
I think it is really important because I know I like working with people that I like, that I trust, that I want to work with. I'm not a big guy, and I think a lot of people aren't looking necessarily for the lowest price all the time. They just want something to go well. And in our business, a general contractor and owner, obviously money's important, but they also want a job to go well, not to have to worry about it. And another big thing too is to know if something goes wrong, they're going to fix it. They're not going to, push back and try to deflect blame. They're just going to say, okay, let's fix this and move on. So I think having those characteristics where they like working with you, they trust you, they know if there's a problem, it's going to get dealt with right, is very important, because I know I like to work with people that are like that. So I think that carries through to most people.
So if your suppliers even were listening right now to this, like, that to me, that's the secret sauce.
It is.
Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we don't, normally shop around a lot on jobs. We have certain people we partner with. We like to work with them. We trust them. We know how they do business. They know how we do business. And that's just how we prefer to do things. We look at them as partners, and we're going to partner up to make this job go as well as we can. And it's not, I'm going to get 10 bids, I'm going to take the low number, or I'm always going to shop around. We like to trust each other, know how we're going to do business together. And I think that generates a better project at the end of the day when we're a team and we are working together towards the same goal and trust each other.
Trust each other.
Yep.
And that is everything, right? That is a true partnership, because you have that level of trust. And, I see so many companies out there today where they're going out there trying to sell their product, their service, their deliverable, whatever it is, right? And they have never established a level of trust. And they're like, why am I not getting results?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's really hard to do. It's really hard to build that trust. It takes a lot of time, and it takes a leap of faith from the customer to give you that, to trust you when they don't know you. And it's really on then us to really perform and show them what we're made of. And that trust, it takes a long time to build, but not a long time to lose. Ooh. So, I'm very aware of that, and I try to make sure our team is too, that we have very good customers that trust us, we've worked with for a long time, but we got to keep up that level of service. That's why they're using us. And it's very easy to slip up and, not do the right thing or start to lose that trust, and that can degrade in a hurry.
What would you say is the quickest way, the fastest way to lose trust?
I think it's not doing what you say you're going to do. I've always felt very, very strongly that if you say you're going to do something, you got to do it. And you know what? Things come up, you can't do it, but be proactive, communicate that. Say, hey, I'm going to get you this by Friday. I'm not going to get it by Friday. I'm going to call that person and say, hey, this came up. I'm really sorry. I'm not going to get it to you till Monday. Because I think the thing that will really frustrate people will be not doing what you're going to say. Because that's where that trust is there, that if Craig says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. And I'm not 100%. I don't think anybody is, but really you got to strive to, every time you say you're going to do something, you got to do it. And understand that they do trust you. And if you come to them and say, for whatever reason, I'm not going to be able to do what I said I was, as long as I'm proactive in communicating it, people are reasonable, they're going to get it. But just not saying anything and them waiting, hey, I thought Craig was going to do this, that's where I feel like trust starts to degrade.
And we live such in a world, I would say, of uncertainty, right? And I experience it all the time. Like, I try to get people to come in, and I'm remodeling my kitchen, or I'm doing certain things. I mean, I just had a plumber come out to my house and just had a horrific experience, just because, like, uncertainty, right? And inconsistency, and saying you're going to do something and then not following through with it. And it seems like we are an industry that's unfortunately known for that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons it's so hard to build that trust, because people have seen a lot of other contractors do what you just said, not show up. And it's almost become accepted in some cases. It feels like, well, contractors are just going to be like that. We're going to have to deal with it. And I think that's a huge, opportunity for us and contractors like us who are trying to make that effort to do a better job. there's a lot of unhappy customers out there that may not even know there's something better out there. They might just say, well, all contractors are like that. If I call a plumber, it's going to take all of them a month to come out and see me, right? So I think that gives people that are willing to go that extra step and give that good service a big opportunity.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because that's everything, right? I mean, Reuben Train said in 19, I think it was like 26 or something, like, we are, our industry is not built on equipment and patents. It's based on service. And it's the most important thing in our industry. And I share that with a lot of companies I work with. And I ask them, is it still relevant today? Yes or no? I mean, because a lot of people are jaded. They think, well, it's just all about the lowest price, right? But I think it's still, now don't get me wrong, price is always going to be important.
Absolutely.
I call it the scale of value, meaning as a client, every customer out there, me, you, we're all customers every day. And I don't know if you agree with this, but I think we're weighing value. Who gives me the best value is who I'm going to do my business with, right? And I'm evaluating, okay, what does value mean to me? Well, everybody's different. So what do I value? I value consistency. I value high character. I value honesty. I value, when we think about the enjoyability factor, I value trust. I value the relationship. And to me, price, I'm like, well, it's just price is price, right? I pay it once and I forget it. And this over here, though, this is what's going to get me to the ultimate goal. And I think so many contractors kind of lose focus of that, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think there are situations where, we know a project is going to go based on price, and that happens.
Sure.
And I do think, you can charge more, but there has to be value there.
Has to.
And that's another thing that we always try to, reiterate to our team is we're usually not the low number. We don't want to be the low number. We are charging more because we have, the resources and the ability, and we deliver more value. We have to give that more value. Otherwise, if we're charging more and not delivering that value, why would you use Shawga Mechanical? You wouldn't. So yes, I think people are willing to pay more if they feel they're getting a better value, better service, but you got to deliver on that. You can't just say, well, we've always charged a little bit more, or we have to charge a little bit more, but then not give that extra value to the customer. So it's very important that if you're in that world where that's what you're selling value, that you are delivering that value.
I just explained what I value as a consumer. What do you value?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the same things. I think it's, the consistency, the trust, getting, knowing what I'm going to get. I personally do not like uncertainty. I just want to know that, if I do this, I'm going to get this. That makes me feel better. And if it costs a little bit more to have that certainty, then I'm usually willing to pay it. And quality is another thing too, where you do that evaluation. I could buy one of these every 5 years, or I can pay a little bit more and it's going to last me 20 years, And I think quality is something that, some people value. I certainly value that, you got to look a little bit longer term and see, is this worth this extra investment? Is it going to pay off in the long term? And that's something, we try to sell with customers in the HVAC industry sometimes is there's a lot of systems, a lot of different ways to heat and cool a building. Easy to always go to the cheapest option, but really looking, how long is this going to last, cost to maintain, cost to operate. We truly believe that's doing our customers a good service, giving that information. And because I do that in my personal life when I'm looking to buy something. Okay, this may be really like a printer. Great example. I could buy a super cheap printer, but that toner, it costs more than the printer, right? Or you buy a little bit better printer, toner costs a little bit less. I just bought a printer a few weeks ago. That was the conversation I'm having in my head, like, ooh, that low price is pretty good, but I know I'm going to pay for it in the long term. So I think HVAC is a very similar thing, There's that low price system or low price install, but then there's that better one that if you really look long term, you can see there's real value to it.
I think a lot of companies are so focused on just delivering the result, meaning the project is completed, right? The unit was installed. So you have your and you said quality, which is a really important word, but it's not just the quality of the product, it's the quality of the experience, right? Which
Absolutely.
the person you deal with, right? How is their follow-up? right? How is their communication? Are they giving you who, what, where, when, why, how in advance, right? Are they, a true partner in this sense? Or are they just, out to make a sale, so to speak, right?
Right.
And you feel that, don't you?
You absolutely do. And the unfortunate thing about a construction project, it could last 12 months, 18 months. And that last closeout of the job, that last few weeks is really going to be that enduring impression of how you performed on a job. And I think that can be a real challenge because there's always schedule pressure at the end. You're trying to get things up and running and working, and how you react in those situations and how you get that job to close out is really what that customer is going to remember about the job and how you performed. And to your point, that install could end up the exact same either way, but if that last, few weeks, few months didn't go well, that's really what they're going to remember about the process, not necessarily those first 12 months went great.
So you could nail it. You could nail it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, step 7, on and on and on, and then drop the ball at the last moment in the last 2 weeks, and that's what they remember.
Right. And I do think you can kind of build up some goodwill or trust along the way if you're doing a good job, and I think that helps. If you have done a good job or you've worked with this customer before and done a good job, I feel like, again, there's like a bank there that you're building up that goodwill. And when you do have those stumbles, I think it helps a little bit. But still, that's going to be the lasting impression of that project. So we try to be really conscious of that because, we have a service department as well. And we always love the opportunity to turn a construction job into a long-term customer. So we really got to finish strong. And, so we have that opportunity to turn that into a customer that we could have for a very long time.
So what you really are in is the perception business. And it's the customer's perception of how things go overall, right?
Right.
That determines if you come back.
Right. Exactly true.
Yeah, it's so true, man. So I love that. You guys are really, and that's, when I came in and I sat down and I was like, these guys got a fantastic culture. I really thought your culture really stood out in our industry. I worked with 137 mechanicals in 2023.
Wow.
And I truly thought that you guys had a culture that was better than 99% of those other companies because you just, I don't know if it's being third generation. I don't know what it is, but tell me about your culture because I love it and I want to hear how you got it.
Yeah. Well, I've always felt like the culture is kind of built, and I'm trying to maintain that culture and keeping it moving in the right direction. I think a lot of it was based on, the generation older than me, how they ran the company, how they interacted with people, because that's how I learned how to deal with a customer, or how to talk to people, or how to follow up. So I think really it was them building that culture, and then since then it's just been trying to maintain that. And I think there's the family business part of it, but, it is a family business, but there's a lot more people there that aren't family. And I think it's just everybody from the top down, doing the right thing, practicing what they preach and trying to lead by example. And I think we all get along with each other. We all look out for each other. And I think as long as we keep doing that, I think that culture is going to continue. If people start looking out for themselves or focusing on, maybe their situation, not everybody else's, that can start to be a problem. But I think we've just, everybody that has come in has seen how we do things, has looked out for each other, helped each other when they needed help. And I think that's helped a lot. And I think it helps reinforce how to treat people and how to treat customers. And, we say we always want to treat people like we would want to be treated ourselves. That's a big thing. I think it's very true. And I think people want to, like we started with, work with people that they like. I think we all like each other in the office. We all want to help each other in the office. We all get along well. And, sometimes I look back and wow, we do have a great culture. This is great. I feel like, I need to lead by example to continue that, but I feel like it's just such an organic thing that builds over so much time, and you get to where you are and it's great, and you just got to try to maintain it. But again, I think a lot of the credit goes to the older generation that really ingrained that in the company as it started to grow. And then we were just kind of almost caretakers of that culture as the company moved forward.
But as we know, we see professional sports teams or, new coach comes in, culture changes, right? And, what are the let's call it the pillars, like that you would say that your dad and your uncles, have implemented to help you kind of carry that culture on? What would you say those are?
Yeah, I think it's, communication is a big thing.
Okay.
Over communicate, make sure you're always communicating with each other, with customers, always doing what you say you're going to do, like we talked about earlier. That was really something I learned from them is if you say you're going to do something, do it. If you ask somebody to do something for you, you should be able to assume it's going to get done. If it's not, you just got to communicate. So I think those are really, I think the cores of it are just have open communication, talk to each other, and do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't, make sure you're communicating it. And I think when you have that base, I think it instills trust in other people because they know if they ask you to do something, you're going to be able to do it. And I think the other thing too is, I don't know if it's because it's a family company or we all know each other, but again, I think liking the people you're working with, wanting to help each other. I feel like so many people in our company go out of their way to answer a question or help, or even over here, like I'm having this problem. Oh, I had this problem. Here's how I fixed it, And that just collaboration and willingness and desire to help each other is a huge deal. And I think you have to have the right people, in place to do it, which we've been fortunate to have.
It's such a struggle, though, for companies as they start to, the business starts to grow, and like, oh my gosh, like that's a little easier when you're a smaller mom and pop shop, right? But as you grow and you evolve, and next thing you know, you have the dreaded silos, different departments. And how are you able to break down those walls and still have harmony and not people keeping score?
Right. I think that is a challenge, and especially like you said, as the company gets bigger and you have departments who are rightfully so focused on what they're doing and growing their department, there can be challenges sometimes. I think any business is going to have that as you grow, but I think keeping those lines of communication open, incentivizing people and encouraging people that this is a team, we're all in this together. The service department's doing well because of construction, the construction department's doing well because of service. They're all intertwined, and the success of all departments is important for Jogga Mechanical to be what it is. So I think, really continually reinforcing that to everybody that, yes, that's the service department, the automation department, the construction department, but all together we're Jogga Mechanical. We all need to work together to make each of our departments strong. And I think most people, believe that, buy into it, and understand that, and that's why there's the willingness between departments to help, each other, which is very important.
Well, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything because, I come in almost like the John Taffer of bar rescue and work with some of these companies. And it's like everybody's fighting and this, that's not my job. And it's like, oh my gosh, here we are.
That's the worst thing to hear. That's not my job as well. It's all of our jobs to take care of the customer and get the job done and whatever it takes, And that's another thing that I know my dad has said so many times that I always remember, just whatever it takes. We got to do it, whatever it takes. And really everybody getting on board, working together, doing whatever it takes to solve the problem, take care of the customer, whatever that might be. And you got to have that mentality too.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that is a mentality. That's a mindset. That is a paradigm shift from one way of thinking to another way of thinking. But it's crucial, right, to the success of the business.
Absolutely.
I mean, like you think about any team that's successful, if they're pointing fingers, if that's not my job, that's not my fault, that's not my department, right? That's not my pay grade. We hear all these, these things, and it's those things hold companies back. They hold people back, right? And if everyone is on the same team and everyone is rowing in the same direction, that's how you get to greatness, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the only way because you can't do it by yourself. You can't do it if people are rowing in opposite directions. Everybody's got to have that mentality and be working towards the same goal, which is making Jogga Mechanical successful, taking care of the customer, and getting the job done.
So would you say those are like what you said, like we all work for Jogga Mechanical. We are all responsible for taking care of the customer, and we are all here to get the job done.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, those are like really good, like, core values, so to speak, of a company.
Right.
So you guys, I walk in and I'm taking the tour and you're showing me around and I saw something really cool. And, I like your culture. You guys have this fun environment, it seems like. But you also have this, like, I walk in, I'm like, what's that? And it says on the wall, it was like the nerds.
The nerdery.
The nerdery.
Yes, that's where the nerds live in our
I
office.
love
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, so it is, I do think we have a lot of fun with that. And, I did a lot of IT when I was younger in the company, and now other people are handling it. And we got a lot of, designers, modelers, people that do computer stuff, and affectionately called the nerds, and like, oh, I got to go talk to one of the nerds about that, or, the nerds working on that, so we just talked about it. And, as we renovated their area now, I don't remember who came up with it, but we said, yeah, I think this is the nerdery. This is where the nerds are. So we just use it. We don't even realize it's a funny term anymore. They're like, oh, we got to talk. I'll meet you down in the nerdery. It's just like the word now, and then people come in and laugh at it. We're like, oh yeah, this is kind of a funny thing. But yeah, we try to keep things light, and, there's always the making fun of the nerds and the nerds threatening to change people's passwords or whatever it might be. But it's fun. Yeah.
Well, it's things you don't see every day, right?
Yeah.
And you guys have, like, and that's, like, look, we spend more time with the people we work with than we do our families.
Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah.
And if we can't enjoy what we do, and have fun doing it with like-minded people, it makes it tough, right?
Yeah.
You become what I call as a clock watcher,
Yes,
and it's
yes.
like, oh, it's 3:22.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's no fun. It's more fun when you look at the clock like, oh my gosh, it's already 3. I
Right.
feel like I just got here.
Yeah.
It's a more fun way to be at work.
So much more fun.
Yeah.
So I love that. It's just because it reminds me of I love the movie Revenge of the Nerds, right? And like that movie made nerds cool. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
And I think about the nerdery, and it's just cool.
It is cool. And, when we have a lot of high school, middle school kids come through, and they, that's what they want to see. They want to see the VR headsets, the 3D models, that stuff. And it's not, the nerd is not a derogatory term.
No.
It's just, using technology. I think a lot of people don't understand in the construction industry how much technology is used, and it's like you're playing a video game sometimes as you're modeling these buildings. So it is really cool. And that's, kind of an endearing term for that, technology that we're taking advantage of.
So tell me about that real fast, like
Yeah.
the technology that you guys are using today.
Yeah, I think we've always tried to be on the forefront of taking advantage of technology. We knew it's going to be, important to make us more productive and do our jobs better. So, almost every job, if not every job, is modeled in 3D, whether or not it calls for it or not, just because we've incorporated that into our process and how we do things. We use the model to fabricate, to communicate with other trades. We use it to track productivity and how we're doing on a job. So really everything starts with that 3D Revit model, and then we try to take as much value out of that, because there's a lot of time and effort that goes into that model, and let's use that data any way we can to make ourselves better. So we have progress tracking models, which are really cool, which at a glance, a project manager can log in, see a 3D model of the building, see what's been fabricated, what's been installed, what hasn't, get a glimpse of where the job's at. And just that kind of visibility can really help make decisions and plan better, communicate to the customer where we are. So we think that's been super helpful. Again, a lot of time and effort goes into making those, but once they're there, let's try to use them the best we can. So, if we can use VR to help visualize something, or, take an iPad out in the field and hold it up and do augmented reality, we're trying to find ways to use that technology to make us better, to better communicate to the field, and help those guys do their job better out in the field.
And as a result, also communicate better to your clients, right?
Yeah.
To your partners, and always being able to provide them answers before they have to call for answers, right?
Right, and really the process now is we're building a building in 3D before the job gets built, and you're figuring out where there's conflicts, where there's going to be ceiling height issues, constructability issues. And it's like sometimes that modeling process takes longer than the real construction, because we're figuring out all the problems in a 3D model, not standing out in a job site, after something's already been made. So, our amount of rework has gone down so much since we started doing this, and it just makes everything in the field, go a little bit quicker. If we can, there's still going to be some, issues, there always are, but if you could get 90% of those figured out ahead of time and give a design to our crews in the field doing the install that for the most part is going to be exactly what they need to do, it just makes them able to better do their job.
That
which
is awesome.
Super important.
Yeah. So you guys have the nerdery.
Yes.
And then you also, on your website, you have this fun, like, You had something from Caddyshack, the collection guys, right?
Yeah, Moose and Rocco.
Moose and Rocco.
Yeah, the judge wasn't paying up his bet, so Moose and Rocco are going to help him find his wallet. So on our website, our collections department is Moose and Rocco from Caddyshack.
It is so great.
Yeah.
And that's like, you guys have fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you have that environment. It just doesn't seem like it's so like stressful. Now, don't get me wrong. Everyone in our industry is under the guns to some extent. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think that you're going to be better at what you do when you're enjoying it.
Right. It is important to have fun. And another famous Tim Berman quote is, "It's only air conditioning." As people get really stressed out and, it's a difficult day, hey, it's only air conditioning. It's not rocket science, not brain surgery. We can figure this out. It's not the end of the world. And, I think that mentality helps a little bit too. Obviously, it's very important to take care of the customer and deal with issues, but sometimes you need to have a little perspective, and it's only air conditioning. We can figure this out. It'll take care of itself, or we'll work through it. But I think that's important too. That you're having fun. You're not taking yourself too seriously, and you're not the end of the world when there's a problem. Let's work together. Let's get it figured out. We've been around for 74 years. We've probably seen this before. We can probably work through it. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
And it puts things in perspective. It really does.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. 3 quick questions for you. You ready?
All right. I'm ready.
These are completely sporadic, spur of the moment. Favorite food?
Favorite food, pizza.
Pizza.
Yes.
You got a favorite pizza place?
They're all pretty good, honestly. There's not that much bad pizza out there. I don't know. I haven't had many pizzas I didn't like. So
Me too. I agree there.
Yeah.
Favorite musician or band?
Favorite band, I think Bush.
Really?
I grew up listening
Yeah,
to them
me too.
when I was in high school, still do. That's one CD I can put on, anytime, listen to the whole thing, love it.
Yeah.
So I think that's, probably at least the one album that I always go back to, always listen to.
I just saw they were coming to concert.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I did not see that.
Yeah.
I may have to go check them out.
Yeah, I think they're coming to concert.
Yeah.
Cool. Favorite movie or favorite actor or actress?
Yeah, I think favorite movie of all time is probably Wayne's World. I
Wayne's
love Wayne's World. Another one came out when I was in high school. Great rewatchable, factor to that one. You can watch it a million times, have every line memorized, but just love it. That was a great, funny, silly movie. Yeah, that I can watch anytime.
And a rock and roll movie too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it was great. I love it.
That is a great movie. I
Yeah.
love that movie. Dana Carvey cracks me up.
Yep,
And so, last question for you. Ready?
I'm ready.
Maybe I get invited. Maybe I don't. But
Yeah.
let's say it's your retirement party.
Yep.
All right. How do you want the people in attendance to describe doing business with Craig Berman?
That's a great question. I think I would just, I want people to say that, I enjoyed working with Craig. It's really, it's hard to say. I mean, I want people to like working with me. I like working with other people. And I think if at my retirement, there's people there that I've worked with for their career and my career that can say, it was really a pleasure working with you. I like it. I'm going to miss you. I think that would be probably, the highest compliment, because that means I was doing my job. They trusted me. We worked together for a long time. It was a good experience for them. And I think that's probably the highest compliment I can get. It was great working with you. I liked it. Like spending time with you. Going to miss you. Those type of comments would probably be the best thing.
So it comes back around. That was to your grandfather.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yep. Craig, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was awesome. Great conversation.
Thank you.